All right, and we're live. Someone give me a thumbs up. Let me know you're hearing the audio. Roger, great, grand, awesome. Let's begin. It is Saturday, April 26th, 9:07 p.m. Central Time. We got a few things to go over, news going on around the world, some of my thoughts of what I think may be particular. You may want to pay attention to, you may not want to. First things first, thank you to everyone who's watching. God bless all of you. Thank you for being here. Thank you for keeping us in your prayers and your thoughts. Thank you for supporting us. Um, we truly can't do this without you guys. And if it wasn't for the grace of God, we wouldn't be here. So here we are. It's wonderful to be back. Had to take a couple days off because every now and then you just got to unplug from this nonsense. And so here we are. A lot of things have happened, mainly across the pond. Thankfully, not too much here in the US, but there are some concerning things we still need to be picking up on. To go ahead and answer a question that's in the comment section from Lost Tourist Doug. Some individuals claiming to be the Mahdi of Islam. He's also claiming to be the Messiah as well. He's claiming to be the Pope on Earth or whatever. I saw him. He's out of Egypt. Guy looks like he could be trouble. Do I think he's the Mahdi? Absolutely not. Do I think he is the prophesied false prophet or antichrist? Absolutely not. Whoever that man is, whoever the beast is, the whole world will be in awe of that man. He won't be some shady figure like this weirdo that's coming out of Egypt. This guy talks about being, in different forms of riots and more or less terror attacks in Egypt and being captured and tortured and for the people, socialist, communistic points of view and leanings. And he's also the Messiah. He's the savior. He's the hope. We see these guys every couple of years. He's just, he's one of the emo punk rock band versions. So I'm not worried about him. I don't think you should be worried about him. But he does look like someone who could cause problems. To me, he's just another cult leader. All right, so coming up, we have our Vindicta Solutions training. It's in Tellico Plains, Tennessee. That is next weekend, Friday to Sunday, so May 2nd to the 4th. It's our bread and butter shoot, move, communicate course. If you've never done anything like this, it's a good opportunity for you to get out there. There's still plenty of seats available. Cost is $800. There's a reason for why we do what we do, especially in this training. And we're going to be coming at this and revamping things and trying to shorten the progression of that training so that it's no longer a 3-day course, but a 2-day course. Because travel's hard and we get that, and the economy still sucks and we get that. So we're going to try and bring some resolutions to this. But it may be the last course that we put on until September for the women's only shoot, move, communicate course, which we've got only one person signed up for it right now. And if that's the only lady that shows up, the whole team will still show up to support her. Ladies, I strongly encourage you to come to a course like this. It's affordable. It is an extraordinary amount of wealth of knowledge that we do our best to bestow upon you to help protect you, which from there you can go forth in protecting loved ones. You don't really get to see this type of training outside of government function or law enforcement function. So we're one of the few companies that are bringing this to the civilian market. It's what law enforcement is trained in. It's what the military is trained in. And it's one of the things that helps to keep you alive and keeps you thinking at all times, which means might also keep you out of trouble. So, I'm not saying don't go out to the firing line and shoot your guns, but you shooting at a paper target is not the same as someone having to harass you and you having to deal with them in a possible shoot or don't shoot situation. If that's something that you think you're interested in, please check out some more videos. It's on Vindicta Solutions YouTube page. It's also on our AmericanVindicta, the ministry page. Just keep scrolling down till you see the last video, and you'll see us out there training. You see what we do. I mean, we literally take you by the hand and we walk you foot by foot through the whole process until you are comfortable and confident, and then we start testing you. And it's a good time in the Lord. We always have a very good time. So if that's something you're interested in, you can contact us through vindictasolutions.com, or you can contact me via email at AmericanVindictaShow at gmail.com. If you got any questions, comments, concerns, praise reports, or prayers that are needed, my wife will have a comment that will be pinned at the top of the comment section. Please leave all those there. All right. Now that this is off, let's keep going. So let's start off with Trump 2028. So reading this off of InfoWars, rewrite the rules. Official Trump store features Trump 2028 hat, fueling third term speculation. The Trump organization added a new Trump 2028 hat to hit its online store, a quote, brilliant troll that's already rankling the hysterical left. All right. What are your thoughts on it? Because I think the man is just brazen enough to do it. He said there's multiple different ways that he could do it. He said Americans would vote for him again for a third term. They're trying to redo one of the, I think it's the 21st or 23rd Amendment, that will allow him to run for another consecutive term. With that, that means that anyone who's run for president prior, like Obama, would also then get to be in the running pool and try out for president again. I mean, how much worse could that be? I mean, me personally, the whole world's a stage. What you're looking at is a stage, and this is just smoke and mirrors. It's bread and wine that's being fed to the people at the Coliseum watching the gladiators fight. That's all politics is. Bread and circus. But if you get Obama to be in this running and Trump steps out and Obama is the only one, then we got Obama for a third time. You see how this can go. So, me personally, I do think it is concerning. I don't think it should happen. I hope Americans strongly resist it. We don't need a king. I see a lot of flaws in Trump, as I do in every single politician, and you guys know that by now. I'm no respecter as a person in this field. So, yeah, Trump 2028. Do you support it or do you not? All right, so let's get on to the more pressing things. Cartel is a priority threat to American safety. Cartel is a priority threat to government functions, state functions, local functions, and more or less public safety. If you look at our community page posts that's on our YouTube channel, you will see an Instagram video that is a cartel gun truck from Mexico. Now, I've seen many of these with my own eyes. They're unsettling to see what the cartel creates and the type of weaponry that they put in them. This one, what's unsettling about it is it's so unsuspecting. It's a simple box truck, single cab box truck that is probably something you guys see going down the road or through your neighborhood or down main drag of wherever you live commonly, like a moving vehicle, right? This was a Mayato Flaco, which is another one of the cartels, up armored vehicle that was seized in south of Culiacan, Sinaloa, with a mounted 50 caliber machine gun. Now, as the bay door opens up in the back, a armor-plated turret slides forward with a 50 cal M2 machine gun. Within seconds, this thing can be deployable. All right. The thing that is uncanny about this is that it takes one of those vehicles, just one, to roll up to any type of border town and to start firing upon civilians, or to roll up upon any type of point of entry, a border checkpoint station, and to start firing upon our Customs and Border Patrol agents. And there's just not much you can do about a 50. There's just not much you can do. Any of my Marine Corps infantry guys out there, if you can tell me what the max effective range of the M2 Browning machine gun is, I'd love to see that down in the comments. But I mean, that bullet will travel, depending on how you're shooting it, 3,000 to 4,000 meters. That's a problem. You don't know how many rounds are linked together inside this thing. So one police barricade, this thing pulls up, there's no longer a police barricade. It is a anti-material, anti-armor weapon that your common police officer, your sheriff's deputy, city police, state patrol, I mean, even unless we're rolling around in up armors and we got birds in the sky, your common infantry units don't have exactly the greatest concept of how to fight back at this unless we've got rockets or something else to match that type of firepower. That's just a sucky day. And you don't know how many of them they have. But I know for a fact, watching them going down the Rio Grande one night when we were in Laredo, and we're looking across in Laredo. We're out there, I think this was 2019, and we're protecting the Immigration and Customs Enforcement judges. It was our special response team was out there on the border at this time. And we saw 3 of their vehicles casually driving by, and then one federale vehicle that is tailing them. And these were gun trucks. I mean, these were legitimate, home-built, up-armored vehicles with gun ports, with every type of gun you could think of, with an absolute real, like, I believe it was probably something that was one of ours from Iraq, a turret that you would see in either an MRAP or you would see in a Humvee that was mounted onto one of these vehicles with a 50 cal. That one gun truck alone can destroy pretty much anything that responds to it. As long as the guy shooting doesn't get hit, that's a bad day. The cartel is a true threat, all right? It's not just that they're a threat to the Mexican people. It's a threat to our international commerce with Mexico. There's a lot of money that comes back and forth between Mexico and America, and it is an absolute insider threat to Americans here in America. Cartel operations are going on every day, every state, every city. There is no one from Maine to Washington, D.C., Florida, Seattle, California, connecting back here to Texas. They're also in Montana. They're in North Dakota. They're in every city, in every state, either funneling guns, human trafficking, sex trafficking, trafficking in narco terrorists or actual international terrorists. They're used for assassinations. They're used for embezzlement, smuggling operations. They're also used for intimidation. So it's a true threat. I don't know why we as a government have never done anything about it. We've ignored it. Obviously, it has been something that has been protected by our politicians because they're the ones who would give the orders to have this taken care of, but they're the same ones putting the handcuffs onto our federal forces that are not allowing them to take care of that. Not to mention, there are within our own federal ranks. Now, I'm no longer a federal employee, so I can't speak of what's happening currently. But when I was a federal employee, it was well known the amount of people who have been caught working for the cartels on the border alone. I don't know how many else off the border, but on the border alone, hundreds of CBP and Border Patrol agents that have been caught. One of them was a FBI senior special agent in charge in El Paso. Him and his wife were working for the cartel. She more or less helped, the wife more or less helped to run the Delta Downs that was happening in Juarez, Mexico. If their pockets can reach that deep, and if they can get people like a head special agent of the FBI that's in charge of that area, that district or region, how it is that they designate that zone for their operations, that's a big problem. That's a very big problem. We know from going down to the border that anyone that you interact with, from the simple person that's working at the 7-Eleven, people who own restaurants, who own the ranches, who own any type of farms, to people that are working on the side of the road, sheriff's deputies, police officers, nurses, lawyers, doctors, city officials, mayors. Many are on the take. Many are not discovered, not disclosed, but our assumptions are more than 90% accurate on this. And yet many are not moved on. Most of the time it's because, and feel free to disagree with this because I do too, we'll watch to see what they do, and then maybe we could land a bigger fish. Me, I see fly, hit fly with sledgehammer. That's kind of the way I see things. That's not the most tactical way of doing things. It's not going to get the most amount of information. I get that. But when you have a serious problem like that, how long do you let that type of infection linger without applying the medicine? One way or the other, it's still dangerous for we the people. And I think we the people deserve more than what we're getting out of our government. I like the fact that Trump has swarmed the border with federal forces, but that's not the only weak point. Every city, every city has its issues. You've seen this since Trump has done the grand immigration operation, and how many people who are illegal that have been wrapped up, deported. Now the leftist judges are attacking Trump on this, so there's stays here and there. The MS-13 Maryland man that got wrapped up and sent to, where is that, El Salvador. You had many Democratic officials, politicians, who were either flying down there or who tried to get down there, who were leading protests, trying to raise money for this guy. This guy is a known MS-13 gang member. I'll do you the favor on doing some of this research, but you should research what you have to do to be an MS-13 member. Now, this guy is more or less an affiliate. Supposedly, he wasn't a homeboy. In order to be a homeboy, the first stage of being a soldier in the MS-13s, you have to kill somebody, typically someone close to you. All right. It's a blood in, blood out type of thing. You are expected to do whatever the gang tells you, no matter the violence. Why would we support that as an American people? Why would we say that guy should have equal rights under the law? It's a slippery slope. If we just haphazard deport everyone, which I'm like 70, 80% leaning that way. If you're illegal, then, you're illegal, you're gone. But for people that are in these violent gangs, I just want to know, what's the due diligence? Are we gathering the proper type of intelligence out of these people? Are we finding as much out as possible? Of course, most of them won't talk. But we know that the chances of them coming back into the country before everyone was getting sent to the max prison in El Salvador was about 50-50. There was one guy that we caught. He was MS-13. He'd been in the country 4 times. So, I mean, it's a nonstop revolving door. It has way more problems than it does solutions. For every tunnel we find, 2 are dug. For every 30 people that we catch, 90 got away. It is a true issue. We don't know just exactly how many people are in this country. but I've heard the responses from the federal government since the time that I've been in, since the time I've been out, and since Trump took over now. I've heard the answers from 10 million to 40 million. When I was in and I was talking to active Border Patrol on our operations, they were saying there's probably 30 to 40 million people in this country. That was 2018, 2019. That's the last time I was on the border. So I would only imagine we have more than that. You have no idea who these people are. We don't know exactly where they all come from, but we know pretty much it's all military age males of fighting ages. We know a lot come from China, a lot come from Russia, a lot come from Middle Eastern countries that are considered hostile, a lot that are coming from socialist hellholes, more or less. And they're carrying those politics and those criminal traditions with them. So to have a organization like DNC who supports this, that should be eye-opening. Once again, I'll go back to the smoke and mirrors of politics. The Democrats embrace it. The Republicans barely do anything about it. The deportation operations from Tom Homan is a good sign. I've met Tom Homan and talked to him for about 30 minutes. I enjoyed that conversation. I actually think very highly of Tom Homan. He's a man who's got skin in the game, and he takes that job very seriously. And probably out of everyone that's in the Trump administration, he's the only one I trust. Trust is a convoluted word with me when we talk about the government, but knowing the history of that man since I was in the agency, he ain't changed. He's hellfire and brimstone on protecting the people, and that's the only good thing I have seen out of this administration yet from my eyes. That's my personal bias. You can agree with it or disagree with it. That's your opinion. That's your right. But me knowing the ins and outs of how the government functions, that's been the only good thing that I've seen so far. And I don't know how long he'll last. I bet he'll last maybe a year or two, and then Tom Homan will be gone, and these problems will come right back. We'll see. Outside of that, let's go to a next story about the cartel. Now, I posted this a couple days ago, but we're going to go ahead and read the article just in case there's people who don't ever view our posts. Just for FYI, we report a lot of intelligence stuff, open source intelligence stuff that we're getting. We post it mainly on our YouTube channel pages, both Vindicta Solutions and for AmericanVindicta. You go to the channel, you look at community post. It may just say post now, you say community post, and you'll see all the stuff that we're putting out there. 2 men arrested accused of hauling 180,000 rounds of ammo from Utah into Colorado. So, of course, the way this is worded from CBS, 2 residents of Mexico were recently arrested in Colorado while allegedly transporting 180,000 rounds of large caliber ammunition. They were pulled over after driving toward deputies and failing to dim their van's headlights. Okay, they're not 2 residents of Mexico. They're 2 cartel members. They're most likely 2 cartel Sinaloa members, and I'll tell you why. They fly into Denver. They buy a van. They drive to Salt Lake City, Utah. I don't know exactly who sold them 180,000 rounds of 7.62 ammo that can be linked for machine guns or that can be fed into AK-47s, but it also had 308 ammo, or as we say in the military, 308. That can either be in a FAL, that can be in a AR-10 platform. Both of these 2 rounds, for the most part, are well known around the world for combat operations and combat theaters for being pretty good rounds. They are body armor defeating for the average police officer. A 22 long rifle will go through one part of your door in your car, out the other. A 9mm will do the same. A shotgun will do the same. 5.56 will whiz right through it. 7.62 will absolutely burn straight through it. Most likely also through the hubcaps of your new cars, through your engine, because everything's getting made out of aluminum now. Unless you're like me and you bought a 1990 Toyota 4Runner that has its own little particular issues. But these are ammunition that's used for military weapons for the most part. All right. You got to stop and think 180,000 rounds. Who really wants to go to federal prison that bad to sell to illegals, which it's illegal to sell that type of ammunition to someone who does not have a permit for it and they're on a non resident visa? They can't stay. It's a temporary visa just to get here, buy something, and leave. That means they've got connections. Okay. The cartels got connections everywhere and they've got deep pockets. Cartels are a Fortune 500 company. They are billion-dollar companies. Whenever we would stop a truck full of marijuana and cocaine, and all the agents come over and we're all laughing about how we're tearing the truck apart and finding stuff, and we're like, well, the driver's definitely screwed. 5 or 6 of those trucks will go by on another station. And that's the game that we play. It's a cat and mouse, and everybody on the border knows it. What we don't know is how much ammunition is coming from Mexico now, north of the border, how much guns are coming from Mexico driving north of the border, because it is being found. When I was still working in the agency, it was money and bullets and guns go south, people go south, and then drugs and money and people are going north. All right, that's kind of the way it's always been. Now it just goes back and forth. Now you have the cartel who are sending drugs, money, guns, and bullets, pushing it north, along with the human trafficking, along with the terrorist embedding. And where do you think it's going? It's going to their people who are held out somewhere in a safe house. And what does it do? It just sits there until the day it needs to be needed. What is that day? When do we get to X day? That's the thing that me coming out of law enforcement that I look at now is, when do we hit X day? When is it that we wake up one day and every city across America is in some sort of an embedded terrorist cell gunfight? I don't have a good answer for you. And I don't have a good answer for you on how we're going to deal with it, because most agencies have their heads buried so far down, the rabbit hole or in the sand, that they ignore these threats. They see the threats that are coming across. Um, they are getting the threat reports. They're getting the threat assessments. We're getting bolos all the time. Be on the lookout for this. Hey, this was found at the border. Be on the lookout for that. And then we just go about our day until you have to deal with it. Some cities deal with it consistently, like New Mexico. Um, New Mexico is one of those states that's always dealing with cartel operations. Texas is the same one. Arizona, California. But for most of you states traveling north of the border, you don't really deal with this to the extent of the average civilian knowledge, but law enforcement is dealing with it. If it's not through the human trafficking, then it's through the drug smuggling. But the manpower and the guns are also spreading north. Let's continue with this. 2 Fremont County detectives were driving on the State Highway 50 in Canyon City on March 26, according to the federal arrest affidavit. The van was coming in the opposite direction and left its headlights on the high beams as it passed by. So, simple traffic infraction. They pulled around, pulled them over. The detectives followed the GMC passenger van until they reached to a gas station where they pulled it over. And then both men inside the van, Cesar Ramon Martinez Solis, who's 41, and Huberto Ivan Amador Gavira, 24, both from Mexico, present United States visas as their forms of identification. The detectives asked to search the van. The driver gave permission, and inside the cargo compartment, the detectives found approximately 150 boxes of .308 caliber ammunition, which has about 1,000 rounds in each box, and then 30 boxes of .762 ammunition, which has 1,000 rounds each box. Ergo, 180,000 rounds. Neither man's documentation permitted them to be in possession of weapons or ammunition, or even for hunting or sporting purposes. Both were sent to ICE. No idea where they're at. They're probably being held, probably going to the darkest of the black sites that we got until we're done with them. Then we send them back to Mexico. So they travel from Denver to Salt Lake City. From Salt Lake City, they begin the long journey to go to Pueblo, Colorado. At Pueblo, Colorado, is one of our federal prisons that is holding the Sinaloa drug boss, El Chapo. Pueblo is very notorious for Mexican gang activity, all different types of gang activity. So, in our best estimations, this ammunition was going to soldiers for the Sinaloa cartel who were most likely ready to either commit some sort of a prison break or to carry out their operations. It's an article from the Atlantic Council, not the greatest of all places to get information from, but it's titled U.S. Intervention Against Mexican Cartels Carries Major Risk. Here's how to mitigate them. Is direct military intervention against Mexican drug cartels the answer to ending the U.S. opioid crisis and improving security along the border? What do you think? Yes or no? Several members of the incoming Trump administration have suggested deploying U.S. Special Operations Forces to combat the cartels. Proposals are similar to how the United States has previously engaged in counterterrorism and counterinsurgency across the board. Now, most of this drug traffic, especially the fentanyl, originates from China, and it's killed millions of people here in America. Such unilateral military action would come up with a lot of risk, as the cartels have a significant capability to retaliate. Now, you can continue to read on about this, but they have so many different paramilitary entities within the cartels, and there's so many different varieties of cartels. Some of them are trained by former U.S. Special Forces. Some of them have former U.S. military service members actively enroll, being paid by the cartel to either be an active member for their operations or training their people for current operations. They have a lot. The cartel have a lot of experience with fighting. I'm not going to say they're the greatest, but they do have a lot of experience with counterinsurgency operations that are done against them, guerrilla warfare, which is what they stage all the time, ambushes, raids, kidnappings, extortions, mass casualties. The cartel is notorious for not killing just a couple people, but for killing hundreds of people. Recently on the border, I believe it was the Texas border, right across the Rio Grande, was a execution chamber where there was thousands of pairs of shoes that were found in a makeshift crematory where all the victims of this one cartel are being sent to, and they're being cremated, just like what happened at the death camps in Germany. That's just one that we found. We know that there's multiple, and there's multiple ways that they do it. One of the ways that they also do it is with a form of a cooking operation. Don't even suggest you look into that. I've seen the videos, I've seen how it's done, and I've seen the results, and it's horrific. They use caustic chemicals and they put people in vats until they're melted. And it is horrific. That is what we face on our border every day. That is what American citizens and Mexican citizens are terrorized with every day. And we do nothing about it. But we will gladly go and send our warships through the South China Sea. We'll go and mingle with Russia and what's going on by the tune of $300 billion in Ukraine. We'll meddle with the nations in Africa, where we're either leading CIA, co-opted missions, assassinations, or we have our U.S. military forces deployed there. But Mexico is just left to its own devices. I mean, if there is a absolute number one priority threat to the American people, it is the cartel, and we do really nothing about it. It is something that we, for a policing operation, we will handle, and I just don't think that works anymore. Me personally, I think it is something that does need military intervention. Is that going to be ugly? Is it going to be a successful mission? Is it going to be an easy mission? No, no, and no. Because just like what Ed Calderon, and I left a link on our community post to a recent interview that he did, the Mexican drug cartels, sure, we can find where the bosses are, and we can use a predator drone, send a Hellfire missile down the front door and kill everybody in it, which will most certainly include civilians. But the moment you do that, another one pops up. The moment you do that, you have more inner warfare amongst the cartels, which just causes more problems for the Mexican people. You have to think about these things in a 10-step future process. We can't just play whack-a-mole. What's the proper way to do it? Should we send down troops and just get online, phase line to phase line to phase line, and push through until there's no one left fighting us? We will lose quite a bit of people doing that. And the cartel are already using drones the same way the Ukrainians or Russians are against each other. They're using that against federal the federales. Are using it against the Mexican National Guard, the Mexican Marines, and they're also willing to use it against our law enforcement. Our law enforcement has come across every different kinds of drone, from ones that are carrying drugs to ones that are carrying grenades that are booby traps, so that the moment you pick it up, it explodes. It's been a problem on the border for a long time. Now they're using improvised explosive devices, just like what's being used all over the world now. So, will this be a substantial fight? Will it be just like the war on terror, like what we did in Iraq and Afghanistan? Yes, but it'll be on a much more intimate scale, because they have so much support here in America from people that are Mexican Americans, who, the moment they see us pushing into America, will feel the need to go down and defend their homeland. We've seen this before, not calling anybody out, but it is something that is real. It is something we have to deal with. Not only that, but just as easily can the cartel disperse themselves, go down in holes, hide, and drop everything, put on the standard civilian uniform, which is your everyday clothes, and come right across that border, wait for a while, reform, and reattack. This is the problem with trying to combat the Mexican cartels. It will have to be something that has to be completely contained. We'll have to use every type of asset that we have. And I just don't think the Trump administration will do it. I don't think any administration will do it. And if no one's going to do it, then we're going to have this problem for the rest of our lives until Babylon has fallen. So that's my 2 cents on that. Trev Congable, do you think that X Day is also the Black Awakening? Yes. I think in many different ways, the Black Awakening that dear Pastor Russ Izdar is going on to be with the Lord. Um, I do absolutely believe that X Day involves the Black Awakening. I didn't list it here, but it's something my wife and I are fixing to start working on. Uh, but I'll go ahead and preview a little bit. The New Apostolic Reformation, the latter day movement that started back in the 40s, which is a complete occult misrepresentation of Christianity, is building to a crescendo moment where they have blended Nazi ideologies, they have blended New Age mysticism, occult rituals, and this new thought process of the seven mountain mandates, the dominionism kingdom now, the thought process from what they will tell you. And shout out to the Magical Mystery Church YouTube page. You want to see what they're talking about and the real risk that's there. To me, they're the number one threat in America. In my opinion, they're the number one threat in America. Go check out, I believe her name's Laura, and the good work that she's putting on. Their whole spiel, I mean, it comes down to the day of the sons of God, Joel's army, their idea, and what they will tell you, and Magical Mystery Church literally lets you hear exactly what they're saying, and their game plan is that there will come a day when the true church of Jesus Christ will have to pick up guns and slaughter people, men, women, children, to suckling infants, for Jesus in order for him to return to a glorified church for his bride. They're deadly serious about it. I mean, you will see more people in the Trump administration who's a new apostolic reformation pastor or minister, like the one that's in charge of the faith office. You will see more of them being NAR than you will just a random everyday good old boy pastor or reverend or whatever. That is something that is concerning. Most, if not all of them, have to do with Freemasonry, just like Trump's former pastor. He was a NAR guy, 33rd degree Freemason. This is the dude that Trump grew up under in his Presbyterian church. It's very big in the Pentecostal movement. It's very big in the, how would you say this? It's a different kind of hellfire and brimstone, where it's not about hellfire and brimstone. It's about loves, hugs, and kisses, and the supernatural powers that God will give you. You see him with Benny Hinn walking around, touching people, and they're fainting. And it is fake Christianity. It is the fake church who is preparing for the day for their fake Messiah. And they believe, and Jesus warns you about this, that they will come after you, persecute you, hunt you down, and kill you, thinking they're doing it for God. This is who the Bible is warning you about. This is part of that great apostasia, the falling away from the faith in the Lord Jesus, going to another kind of strange fire, another kind of Jesus, another kind of church. You know, when Jesus warns you, hey, if you hear that I'm out in the fields, don't go out there. If you hear I'm out in the inner chambers of a room, don't go in there. It's not me. You'll know it's me. I'm coming down from the clouds. Nobody can fake Jesus's return. Many people also will throw in there the fake alien invasion, and Jesus will walk off of a UFO and say, I am he. Do not believe any of it. It is all the lies of the enemy. And I'm here to tell you right now, it is definitely something that is being pushed, is progressing forward. It's why you see all this UFO stuff coming out. It's why you hear about all the mystical stuff coming out. So now you're hearing about people with telekinetic powers is starting to really grow pretty big, even in discussions in the federal government, in the halls of Congress. Why is it all coming out right now? The UFOs, the special powers that people have, the ability to use remote viewing, all the new mystical teachers that are coming about, and they're all clothed in a fake Christ. It's because they're getting close to X day. X day, the day they get activated, the day the beast says, I'm here, and so is my army. In Revelation 13, I believe it's verse 7. Me and Brother Bob were just going over this the other day. One thing that people don't really research enough, the Antichrist will be given the authority, the power, the permission to overwhelm, to overcome the saints. When you look up that word, it's a militaristic word, it's an action word. In my mind, as I research this and as I go back into the Old Testament, to me, it seems like one day there will be a day where you will have the beast system, the image of the beast, the false prophet proclaiming the beast, doing his false signs and lying wonders. You'll have an army of the beast, and you will have an army of saints that will try to go and contend with the beast. They will be given the authority, the power to overcome, to overwhelm them. Many will go into captivity. Many will become martyrs. If you live by the sword, you die by the sword. All right. Think about these things and think about the future of America, the direction that we're pushing to. We are aggravating the world. We want a new golden age, along with the new apostolic reformation, to also go along with Nazi ideology, Madame Helena Blavatsky, the Theosophists. Um, they all use this terminology of the Aquarian age or the age of Aquarius. Donald Trump has used that many times as well. He's called himself the Aquarian president. Few people pick up on these signs. And it's either because you're blinded to what's going on and you're so tired of the politics and the scum that has happened across America that you want Trump to come in and do what's right. The problem is when you tie yourself so close to the pride of your nation, pride goes before the fall. You don't see the enemy rallying, giving you the false signs, the false heroes, the lying wonders that they will present in front of you. And many people will be fooled. As the Bible says, many people will accept him. People who go to these NAR movements, these NAR churches, they are the congregation of the Antichrist, and they don't know it yet. Many people are coming out of that. We've talked to many people who were involved in that before. We've talked to people who were involved in esoteric teachings before, people who were involved in the mystical arts before. One guy that, if you ever get the chance to talk to him about, talk to L.A. Marzulli. He can tell you about that whole different type of lifestyle that has to do with the Hindus and all the chakras and just how popular it is with young people, with people across the world, especially here in America. The New Apostolic Reformation churches combines all of these things together. And then they say, you also will be gods. You also will be given power, like the power of Joel's army, like the power of Elijah. They say that you will be able to do things like Jesus did, and that this is what God intended for man to be like. It is not. The Savior isn't man. The Savior is the Son of Man who died on that cross for us, rose on the third day, and will return as the conquering king and the judge. Do not be caught up with the goats. Don't be found in the camp of the goats. If you're a part of any of that, if you watch anything like that, I'm telling you right now, run from it. If the Holy Spirit is warning you, listen. Stop, think, and listen. This is exactly what the enemy wants you to believe in, a false Pentecost. They want you to believe in the false regeneration of the mind, the ability that one day God will just rain down all different types of wealth upon you as well. Lies from the devil. It is the doctrine of demons. Don't believe it. Don't get caught up in it. All right. Latest threat assessment coming from Command 11. Command 11 is a intelligence-driven website. I like Command 11 a lot. I respect a lot of things that they do. Command11.com is where this threat assessment is coming from. U.S. Hospital Threat Assessment. Topic is hospital attacks in the United States and Canada. Summary and purpose. The threat assessment presented below is to advise and assist hospitals, trauma centers in preparing for an upcoming terror attack orchestrated by the Islamic State Khorasan Province, which is what's being ran by the Taliban and by ISIS, that is ISIS-K, that is now operating also in cohorts with the Taliban in Afghanistan. That's also what has captured Syria and is the new government of Syria, which apparently the United States is about to start doing relations with. Isn't that interesting? While this threat assessment is specific to hospitals, we're also monitoring churches, schools, sporting events, and large public gatherings. This assessment has been reviewed and discussed by numerous individuals who are part of our intelligence advisory network, including Orange Diamond Consulting Group, Transatlantic Intelligence Consortium, Sarah Adams, who's a former CIA targeter, and Ron Jost. The bottom line up front, hospitals in Tier 1 trauma centers are being targeted for attack by Islamic State Khorasan Province. The targeting is focused on mid-tier cities and the United States and Canada. The attacks will be multi-city, simultaneously carried out. We talked about Sarah Adams' discussion about this topic a couple weeks ago. One of the things that you can do about it, Christians, is the next time you go on your prayer drive, Go visit your hospitals and go plead the blood of Christ over it. Go pray over it. That's something that me and my wife do. This type of attack, this type of combined efforts attack, is where you can most likely absolutely consider seeing the Islamic State terror organizations, the cartels, the Chinese, the Russians, and domestic extremist organizations like Antifa or BLM, all operating together. If they're not gathering information, then they're providing sources and material. If they're not providing sources and material, then they're providing economic help. They're providing cars. They are serving as networks to pass information back and forth. And or they are also doing combined arms training, which we know was happening with the Sinaloas and Antifa, and also Antifa and ISIS in Iraq and Syria. All that is supposed to be coming here in 2025. Now, if it does, it does. If it doesn't, then just keep waiting for it. Now, me and my old profession, I have to sit back and I have to ask myself, how serious are we taking this? Are we stepping up the security operations to make sure that we're on the ball for this? No matter what federal, state, or local law enforcement does, we are always behind the curve. We are a reactionary force, typically undermanned, understaffed, outgunned, and our training, meh, you get it when you get it. So it's one of those things that us here in America, we are highly unprepared for a large scale, multi city, multi tier coordinated attack. This attack cannot just, hit hospitals, but you also have to think about the various forms of infrastructure, from port security to energy infrastructure, to, bridges, railroads, you name it. Everything is a target to a terrorist. Let's see real quick. Anybody got any questions? I'll be briefly looking over here. All right, carrying on. Intelligence credibility is a very high credibility of this threat. The intelligence was gathered by Command 11 human intelligence assets inside of Islamic State Khorasan province training camps in both Afghanistan and Pakistan. Currently, if you didn't notice, Pakistan and India are about ready to also get into a new scale war. They just reported a while ago before I came on. They're already shooting at each other near the Kashmir area. They have shut down airspace, navigable waterways. They've shut down their points of entry to go back and forth from one to another. There are Pakistan high-ranking military officials who are bringing their families out of Pakistan and putting them somewhere else into hiding. Both Pakistan and the India, they're not premiers, but presidents are already having very aggressive, sword fighting type of conversations, saying the first one that pulls the trigger, we pull the trigger next, and we'll hit you harder than you hit us. So this is something that is currently being watched, but you better bet that ISIS is also involved in this. JD Vance went over there a couple days ago, and on his visit in the Kashmir area, there was a large-scale terror attack, and I believe 26 people were killed during this attack. So this is what sparked all of this. All right, going back to here. These assets have been providing information since the end of January, but intelligence became more detailed starting in mid-February this year and continues to flow into our intelligence classification center. The information was reviewed in detail, compared with additional intelligence gathered from other sources, classified based on credibility, and sorted into understandable information that was first passed to external analysts that would collaborate with Command 11, then passed on to law enforcement and intelligence agencies in the U.S. Second, there are already numerous terrorist sleeper cells that are very well known that are inside the United States and inside of Canada, as well as individuals actively being radicalized whose identities are still unknown to any analyst. Most of those people, you're seeing them right now when you turn on Fox News, CNN, MSNBC. Um, they're the ones who are out there doing the protesting. Those are the same people we're talking about. The same people that were involved in the 2020 riots, that's the same people we're talking about. Our estimation based on the chatter within the camps is roughly 30 to 50 operational cells within the United States and Canada at this time, with more cells being created weekly. If one cell, if one terrorist cell is a squad of men, so let's say 12 men, and there's 30 to 50 of those, just imagine 30 to 50 12-man squads who all have automatic weapons, some sort of tactical training, some sort of communication, and a plan that they have been practicing, dry running, and are just ready to execute. We are very behind on the curve. Therefore, it should be clear that this attack will be carried out by terrorists who are already inside of the United States, not individuals infiltrating the United States specifically for this attack. So we're not expecting jihadists to be flying in, be smuggled. They're here. They're actively here already. Here's the situation report for it. U.S. internal security has been seriously compromised due to the Biden open borders policy, which facilitated the infiltration of terrorists from the northern and southern borders of the United States. A second tier was also infiltrated into the United States via manufactured passports through the Sirajuddin Haqqani controlled Afghanistan Immigration Department. The Taliban in Afghanistan are the ones who issue the visas for their people. They manufacture fake visas, they give them to Afghanis who come over here, and we see it and we go, well, I mean, it's from your government, so stamp, welcome to America. These terrorists have taken safe haven in predominantly high Muslim population areas, university campuses, and suburbs of mid-tier cities where movement can easily be made for reconnaissance and surveillance purposes. Most likely, those of us sitting out here in the countryside probably won't get a visit from them, but there are days when you need to go to the market. Be aware. The following links have been identified. Hospitals that have been targeted via cyber attacks or ransomware have also been targeted with surveillance and attempts to breach or test security protocols. Since our alert on March 18th, numerous reports have been received of suspicious individuals captured on video and interacted with hospital staff members inquiring about hospital security protocols. So it's already happening. That's what we call testing, dry running. They're doing their due diligence, their reconnaissance. They're just getting ready for whenever the softest target is most available and they get the green light to go. On March the 2nd, jihadi groups circulated a graphic with U.S. hospitals circled in red with the title, quote, "Soft flesh awaits." Expected tactics. There have been a number of tests that have been carried out to test the following: first responder response time, which first responders respond, and reaction of the general public in real time to determine additional attack opportunities. One key item that we have been able to identify is that the hospitals that have been targeted with either cyber attacks or ransomware attacks have also been targeted for surveillance and reconnaissance. We've included a list of known cyber and ransomware attacks in the appendix. We believe that the New Orleans attack on January 1st was a test using a method successful in European cities with the addition of an explosive that was not detonated. Improvised explosive devices were strategically placed around the accident location and on routes that would be used by first responders. So if you're a first responder and you've never deployed to the military, then you need to understand something. 5s and 25s. If you have to respond out to anything that is suspicious in behavior, active terror attack, suspicious package, or a bag drop, and this goes for you civilians as well. In the Marine Corps, we were taught 5s and 25s. So every 5 meters, you look forward and then you look out 25 meters. Reason why we did that is because there's always a primary device, a secondary device, a tertiary device. Sometimes the primary device is something to lure you in, and it's normally a dud or it's not. And then they wait for other guys to respond, and they set up a cordon around that device. And on the outside of that cordon, where guys are now encircling, trying to keep everyone back, that's where the real devices are at. And when those devices go off and they cause a mass casualty, the third device or devices are set up on the routes for where first responders and ambulance will come and pick people up, or where people will be running and evacuating from. We saw this in Iraq all the time. Potential attack scenarios based on the human intelligence that's been gathered and confirmed. We have been able to identify 3 different potential attack models: the 11/26 Mumbai attack, the 10/07 Israel attack, and the 03/03 Mannheim, Germany attack. So if you want to do your research, look up the Mumbai attack, the Israel attack, and the Mannheim, Germany attack. Please go to command11.com. Check this out. If you're part of any type of security apparatus, especially church security, you should be sharing this with the staff. And this is something that you should be going over, and you should be also considering when you're doing your fire drills, or if there is something like a no smoke, no fire, but everyone is leaving, be watching security staff when you exit that building. If there are people watching you, if they're filming you, be watching everywhere. Again, based on conversations in these terror attacks, in the terror camps in Afghanistan and Pakistan, the attack scenario will start with the following: a VBIED, which is a vehicle-borne improvised explosive device, breaching the main level of the building and detonating. All right. So in the federal government, I used to do a lot of threat assessments, physical assessments on buildings. Not everybody does this because, though there's tons of money available, nobody really cares about security protocols or hardening their facility. If it's a multi-story building, the goal is to send the car underneath the house of cards and blow it up so the whole building comes down, mass casualty. Followed by the VBIED explosion will be small assault teams taking control of the hospital with hostages, including high ground for snipers against any law enforcement and first responders. So they drive the vehicle in, they explode the vehicle. Men get out, they rush into what's not on fire and rubble, take as many people as possible, and then send guys up to the highest vantage points. Doesn't mean the roof, but get them a couple stories up. And as law enforcement is now funneling in, they're going to start a cordon. They're going to set up a perimeter, and then they're going to wait for SWAT to get in, because that's still how everything goes, unless, you're doing your due diligence. And I don't want to get into police protocol too much as ad nauseum, but the way it's supposed to happen with an active shooter is that any available police officer within 100 miles responds to it. And you get out and you link up with whatever cop is sitting next to you, and you go into that building and you start fighting. They know those protocols. They know what we're going to do. That's why they're setting this engagement up to bait us all in. This will be a multi-city coordinated attack that's designed to hit the United States at its weakest security point with the highest psychological impact: the hospitals, the place where none of this should ever happen at. We believe, based on the intelligence chatter that we're receiving, that the attack will be a mixture of both the Mumbai, India attack and the Mannheim attacks. So that can not just be teams going out and shooting people like Mumbai, India. It could also be mass stabbings. It could be ambush that are lying in wait, and after one team's dead, then the other team activates, and when that team's dead, then the other team activates. Impacts: foreign intelligence and terrorism official. Mid-tier cities present the hardest targets to protect and identify potential threats. A mid-tier city is defined as those cities whose population falls between 100,000 and 500,000 residents, making them large enough to maintain a level 1 trauma center, but lacking the security of a metropolitan city such as a New York City, a Los Angeles, a Chicago, or Washington, D.C. The selection of a mid-tier city is based upon specific criteria. One, a large enough to get media attention, but small enough to still be valuable. Two, all infrastructure of major cities exists without the same security presence as top tier cities. Three, law enforcement will most likely not have advanced counterterrorism training, meaning the attack can be sustained while reinforcements with advanced training are able to reach the location, which will slow down the emergency response of police. Four, significantly lower surveillance, allowing terrorists more freedom of movement without detection. This is a list of the mid-tier cities that are believed to be vulnerable and on the target list. Birmingham, Alabama, Tempe, Arizona, Pasadena, California, Modesto, California, San Diego, California, Colorado Springs, Colorado, Bradenton or Sarasota, Florida, Fort Myers, Florida, St. Petersburg, Florida, Boise, Idaho, Wichita, Kansas, Louisville, Kentucky, Grand Rapids, Michigan, Rochester, Minnesota, Omaha, Nebraska, Trenton, New Jersey. What a lovely place. Raleigh, North Carolina, Albuquerque, New Mexico, which is off the chain on cartel operations, Albany, New York, Buffalo, New York, Syracuse, New York, Dayton, Ohio, Columbus, Ohio, Toledo, Ohio, Tulsa, Oklahoma, Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, York, Pennsylvania, Providence, Rhode Island, Knoxville, Tennessee, Nashville, Tennessee, Austin, Texas, College Station, Texas, Houston, Texas, Arlington, Virginia, Richmond, Virginia. We're back. So obviously, um, someone doesn't want us talking about this, so we rebuke you, Satan, in the Lord's name. Okay, I don't know where the buffering stopped, and you guys didn't hear the list of the cities. Can someone please tell me where it stopped at? I want to be able to get this out to you guys. All right, just starting back over the Nashville, Knoxville, Tennessee, Austin, Texas, College Station, Houston, Arlington, Virginia, Richmond, Virginia, Madison, Wisconsin, Milwaukee, Wisconsin, Marshfield, Washington, and Spokane, Washington. Um, I will make sure that I take this link and I will post it in our community post. Please go and look at it, share it with your friends, especially if you are anywhere within the hospital community, law enforcement security community, or you're within your church, or if you are a church security member, please look at this and share it. All right. So, why the mid tier cities? Soft targets, maximize disruption. It's a symbolic impact, easy operational logistics. Um, a few other things. Hospitals and trauma centers make a high casualty target area. All right. This is what we call the soft target. It's just like when you go to Walmart, HEB, you go down to the store, you see hundreds of people in there. That's typically why active shooters will gravitate to those areas. It's easier to shoot a bunch of people waiting in line. Smaller law enforcement budgets from these areas prohibit a lot of the funding for certain counterterrorism measures. Um, but it's not limited to advanced intelligence analysis, advanced surveillance technology, or tactical countermeasures. So, if you live in one of these mid-tier cities, one of the biggest reasons for why they want to go there, it's the easiest place for them to carry out their terroristic operations, to not get caught, and to be the most successful and prolong the engagement for as long as possible. All right. Anything else in here, you can go and check out yourself. Conflict between India and Pakistan, like I was saying a while ago, is starting to ramp up. April 22nd, 2025, gunmen killed 26 and injured 17 at the popular tourist destination of Palagam in India-administered Jammu and Kashmir. The Resistance Front, also known as the Kashmir Resistance, claimed responsibility for the region's deadliest attack in 2 decades. One of the reasons why this is very important is because India believes that Pakistan harbors, which they do, various different forms of terrorist organizations. Both India and Pakistan are nuclear powers. I believe India has a fleet. I don't believe Pakistan has a fleet. So India is a close ally with us, though they do a tremendous amount of trading with Russia and with China. It's still considered to be a close ally of the United States. It is not a friendly place. I do not suggest you ever going and visiting India or Pakistan. But because both of these are nuclear powers and they're very unstable right now, the chance of something very, very wrong happening is very high. It has been very high for a long time. Both countries have talked about chunking nukes at each other. India also shares a border with China. They've had many different types of interactions with the Chinese troops, to the point that you can probably still get on YouTube and watch some hilarious fist fights that were happening between Indian and Chinese troops, and the Indians put it to the Chinese, and it was hilarious to watch. But yeah, the Pakistan-based terrorist organization that was responsible for the 2008 Mumbai, India attacks, the Lakshar-e-Taliban, this is an offshoot of the resistance front that did the latest attack. So in response, India closed its main crossing with Pakistan, suspended all water sharing treaty, and accused Islamabad of facilitating cross-border terrorism, which they're right. Huge, huge issue that we're probably gonna have to deal with as well. Um, there was a major explosion in Iran in one of their ports. 700 people were injured. 5 have now been declared dead in a massive explosion. Um, let me get the real scuttlebutt on this. So, New York Times is quoting that the Iranian sources said that the Iranian port explosion was caused by the explosion of containers of solid fuel that's used for missiles that were imported from China. Unclear if the incident was an accident or sabotage. A person with ties to Iran's IRGC told New York Times that what exploded Saturday at the port of Shahid Raji in the Bandar Abbas area was sodium perchlorate, a major ingredient used in solid fuel missiles. Right now, the Iranians are looking for whoever they think may be responsible. These videos are all over the internet right now. Another one of the problems, because this whole port is on fire, it can't be contained. And pretty much each building next to where these fires are going are all containing some sort of explosive chemical. The entire region has been mass evacuated because the very deadly chemical smog and fog that is blowing through, the smoke that's blowing through, it's completely uncontained, and they're expecting more explosions and more damage. If it is found out, and I would not be surprised that Israel was behind this, it's just more escalation that will be used to wage this future war. which is going to be one of the next things we're going to talk about. Trump said, Israel won't drag us into a war with Iran, but I'll lead the pack if no deal can be made. Iran's top diplomat, Abbas Araghchi, is in Oman preparing for the next, which would be now the fourth round, because the third round of negotiation talks failed miserably with the United States, which will mark their third direct engagement. President Trump just made an unexpected overture. Trump is a newly published Time interview that says he's open to meeting with Iran's supreme leader or president, as the two sides have made clear they are open to achieving peace on the question of the Islamic Republic's nuclear program. Quote, I think we're going to make a deal with Iran, Trump said to the Times. The U.S. president was then questioned over whether he's open to meeting with the supreme leader Al Khamenei or the president, to which he said, sure, he'd have a meeting with them. Um, Officials involved in the Iran dialogue have presented that it's a very good progress so far, though the last one, like I said, apparently failed miserably. Ultimately, I was going to leave that choice to them, but I said I would much prefer a deal than bombs being dropped. Trump described in an interview, we can make a deal without the attack. I hope we can. So Trump is not taking attacking Iran off of the board. Israel is giving a deadline of 2 to 3 months to see if any type of deal can be made where the proliferation of nuclear materials is completely destroyed. Israel said they will only agree if all nuclear, I guess, facilities are completely destroyed, torn apart, and then it would be the same thing like what we did with Libya. We'll take all the nuclear ordnance and materials, and we'll bring it back over here. I think that's in Oak Ridge, Tennessee, where then it's all dismantled. Um, Most likely, this is not going to happen. And to go even further into that, there was recent talks with Saudi Arabia that Iran is willing to help Saudi Arabia to actually create their own nuclear program and go around the United States. The United States is trying to do multiple nuclear programs right now with multiple different Middle Eastern countries. But what is concerning is that Saudi Arabia and Iran are now having peaceful conversations and are talking about a working partnership. You have finally the Sunni and Shia that are typically enemies that are going to attempt to work together. If so, this is just one more nail in the coffin on the United States in losing control of what it did have around the world at one point in time. U.S. Congressman says we need an uprising. Democratic representative calls on the people to threaten Congress and to take to the streets. U.S. Representative Frederica Wilson, a Democrat from Florida, she's the one that's always wearing the cowboy hats, is the latest Democratic politician to use the rage rhetoric to rally voters despite an alarming increase in political violence from the left. Calling for an uprising, Wilson also lashed out at the Laken Riley Act. So here we go again with the Democrats. Take to the streets, destroy everything, threaten the Trump supporters, threaten Congress, threaten the president and the White House. And by the way, we still support trannies. Quote, so I've been giving out the phone numbers to the House of Representatives and to the Senate. It's one number that the number that you can call and you threaten it and you say, this is wrong. This is not America. This is not what we stand for. We need a change. You have to do that. It's going to take the people. We've done it. We need the people. We need an uprising where people are taking to the streets and the phones and writing letters. That's what we need. Maxine Waters says, we are here to fight back. Senator Booker called on citizens to, quote, fight and declared, we will rise up. Not to be outdone in the rage fest, Representative Jasmine Crockett, a Democrat from Texas, yelled, We're going to be in your face. We're going to be on your butts, and we are going to make sure you understand what democracy looks like, and this ain't it. Representative LaMonica McClever or McIver, a Democrat from New Jersey, added, GD, shut down the Senate. We are at war. House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries, a Democrat from New York, called on Democrats to fight, quote, in the streets. So, once again, we have this violent rhetoric that's coming from the left. We have potential violence of terrorist attacks that the left supports. Does anyone else see what I see coming? Let's get into the Wayback Machine and remember that in 2020, you had I believe he was a Tennessee representative from Congress, a Republican, who said that they should declare the Democratic Party a criminal organization and make it illegal. What we have happening in America with Trump is creating another kind of superpower, another kind of uniparty. And that's all this is anymore. It is controlling for power, vying for different positions, and inevitably, these people who are going to confuse people and trick people to go out in the streets and commit random acts of violence, potentially harm or kill people, are not going to be the ones doing it. So I don't know why anybody listens to these people and their madness, but Satan is at work in America. He's at work in our politicians. Careful who you vote for. It's all the same thing now. Epstein victim Virginia Giuffre has now been considered dead by suicide, according to her family. Jeffrey Epstein's most prominent victim, Virginia Giuffre, died by, quote, suicide on Thursday, according to her family, weeks after she said she had days to live and was in renal failure following a collision with a bus. The 41-year-old Nirgaby, Australia, died in Nirgaby, Australia, where she had been living for several years. Now, I think it was last year or the year before that, she came out and said that in no way, shape, or form does she ever consider to be committing suicide, and that if anything like that happens, it's because someone did it to her to silence her. Please protect her family. It's amazing to me that the Jeffrey Epstein list and looking for some of the most demonic forces on this planet that are infecting and infiltrating our politicians that are involved in these Epstein files has just been completely swept from the to-do list of the Trump officials. I know that Pam Bondi, the Attorney General, says she has the list on her table, but we've seen nothing from it. So that means to this day, people are getting away with it. It's still happening. And I honestly do not expect anything to be done about it. If they do, maybe it'll be something that'll be in the third year of Trump's administration, and it'll be a rallying factor for him to be voted for in the 2028 upcoming election. Even if that's true, why would you wait? Why would you make such a political stunt about that? The amount of children that are hurt every year, the amount of people that are kidnapped every year, that are tortured and killed every year for this, and you wait to make a political statement about it, to make it a political stunt. I hope not, but I've learned a long time ago that this is what it is, and this is the game that's being played. Maranatha, come Lord Jesus, come. There's so many things like this that are happening around the world. So many people that are in so many different forms of ranks of high positions, celebrities, and so forth that are involved with this. Mm. If we don't see justice in our time, rest assured, when Christ comes, there'll be no excuses. There'll be no wait. Everything will be taken care of. Rest assured in that. The Dutch king says that his country must prepare for war and pushes for drone development. The EU leaders almost said losers. They are losers. The EU leaders rally for a prolonged conflict in Ukraine, push for the idea of a European army no longer dependent upon America. Quote, we may have taken a bit too much for granted that we would always have freedom and peace, says King William Alexander, the Lieutenant General Best at the Lieutenant General Best Barracks. Unfortunately, Ukraine and other conflicts prove that this is no longer the case and that we really have to prepare ourselves to continue living in peace and security. If you are not prepared, then you're not doing well. At the same time this is happening, you have a mass conflict going across Europe and other European nations of migrants, African migrants, um, people from all over the country that are forcing themselves into predominantly European areas. Right now, even in Moscow, it is 50-50 of either migrant or Russian women giving birth. So even Russia is dealing with this problem. I don't believe China is dealing with the problem. I'm pretty sure North Korea does not have that problem. But for all the main European nations, the operation was to be bred out. It's happening. Right now, you have Ireland, where you have millions of people that are going out and demonstrating that they're going to take their streets back. So Ireland is up in arms. The citizens in Germany and France are doing the same thing. Currently in France, you have many different types of random terror attacks that are happening to their law enforcement and prison officials. One prison officer's house was actually firebombed multiple times, and then people came up and shot into his house while him and his kids are in it with machine guns. So these things are happening sporadically all across Europe. Europe does not have anything in control, but their leaders are so progressive and far left. They still want you to eat the bugs, own nothing, accept trans, accept the migrants, and back down, bow down, go to the corner and cry. Eventually, people are going to fight back. It's instability. This is exactly what Matthew 24, what the Lord is warning us about. You'll have wars and rumors of wars. There's going to be all different kinds of wars and conflicts that are going to happen. It's already happening, but we're building to that birth pain. Though when the birth pains start, there's no stopping it. When the birth pains get in more frequency and more danger and more pain and more death comes quicker and quicker and quicker in that perilous time, the sooner we will get to the Antichrist beast system. One man will come on scene. He'll find a way to silence the whole world. We'll get 3.5 years of peace. Then you know what happens on the last 3.5 years. And then the Lord comes. Hello to everybody that's in Europe, by the way, who watches us. I know we got a lot of brothers and sisters that are in Ireland. We're praying for you. Same like those who are in Australia. We're praying for you. I know Australia is off the chain right now. Your new president is out there saying that anyone who heckles the government should be arrested by law enforcement. We all see where this is going, right? We're not going back into normal operations. Everything is advancing in chaos. You need to get prepared for these days to come. Don't sleep on this. Get right with the Lord. Europe's anti American shift. Now, globalists are apparently becoming the saviors of the West. Nationalism is villainous, and the globalists are the heroes. It's a propaganda message that has been building since the end of World War II and the creation of globalist institutions like the UN, the IMF, World Banks, etc. By the 1970s, there was a concerted and dangerous agenda to acclimate the Western world to interdependency, not just dependency on imports and exports, but dependency on currency trading, treasury purchases, and the interbank wealth transfer systems like SWIFT. SWIFT is one of the things that Europe uses right now to hinder Russia's economy. One of the things that they have tried to do to say, hey, and Trump was one of the ones who did this, Russia, you want to come back into our good graces, do a complete stand down, ceasefire, stop killing people. we'll put you back in the SWIFT system, let your economy then repair itself and grow. And Russia is pushing back on all this. Recently, the head general for the Russian fighting forces was assassinated by Ukraine. They had I believe he was a Ukrainian or Russian. He parked a car bomb, a vehicle borne IED bomb, right next to the car that this general was getting into. And the Ukrainians remote detonated it from Ukraine. Then this guy got in his car and he fled. Well, he was caught in Turkey. And I'll assure you, he was not given a warm welcome. He was probably beaten to the inch of his life. And then they transported him to Moscow, where even worse things are probably happening to that guy. And they got him to admit to what happened, which, I mean, that can mean anything under the threat of violence or death. So there is no peaceful stand down currently within Ukraine and Russia. Um, Trump's angry at both Zelensky and Putin. The fighting's not happening. Zelensky won't sign off on the minerals deal, and you have the Trump administration through Marco Rubio, the head of State Department, who's saying that we're about to just walk away from the entire deal. Well, I doubt that. I think that's just one more of the bulldog tactics. Me personally, I think eventually the Western forces will have to go into Ukraine. You'll have to remove Zelensky. You'll have to set up a policing operation there. Ukraine will probably be forced to give up some of its land. The United States says that they acknowledge that Crimea is Russia's, while the rest of the European leaders are saying they don't acknowledge anything, and Russia should be completely decimated militarily and economically. Everybody's picking a fight with a country that currently holds anywhere between 7 to 15,000 nuclear weapons, who also controls the most amount of the major petroleum exports and their energy infrastructure, especially France and Germany. It comes from Russia. There's not really a second opportunity to run new pipelines currently to feed it into other areas or anyone else who's energy dependent and can give that energy. So, it's loggerheads right now in Europe, and Europe is a frog sitting in boiling water. Eventually, it dies. The water boils over, and it's absolute chaos. It seems like nobody at all is trying to sue for peace. Instead, they prepare for war. So expect it. Oh, here's a great one. Take control of their food supply. Tractor Supply CEO says backyard chicken demands are skyrocketing. President Trump's swift action to combat soaring egg prices. Are egg prices going down to anybody? Anybody going out and buying eggs and they're getting any cheaper? Um, Caused by the Biden Harris regime's mass culling of egg laying hens just before he took office has been nothing short of spectacular. Egg prices have since collapsed, forcing Democrat strategists to abandon their propaganda war efforts with corrupt leftist corporate media to blame eggflation on Trump. In reality, it was a crisis that Biden's making through improper culling practices and no countermeasures to offset the lost production. Smoke and mirrors all over again. Both sides are in on this. I don't believe either side. I understand that not everybody can have backyard laying chickens. Um, but to the best of your ability, you should be trying to do that. For us, I mean, I think last week we probably had 20, 30 goose eggs, which makes a fried egg about that freaking big. Ducks are prolific layers, chickens are prolific layers. At least in my area of Texas, ducks lay more, and weather just doesn't seem to kill ducks kind of like it does chickens. So, things to consider for your current and future homesteading operations. Um, Poultry, good choice. You should consider it. So the Tractor Supply CEO, Hal Lawton, confirmed to investors on earnings call this week that the nationwide egg shortage sparked an unbelievable surge in chick demand at stores nationwide. This is what Bloomberg is reporting. Tractor Supply Company, a rural retailer best known for its animal feed and ranching equipment offerings, expects to sell a record amount of chicks this year as customers expand their broods and first timers seek to avoid record setting egg prices. Those novice poultry farmers are attempting to, quote, take more control of their food supply. Tractor Supply Chief Executive Hal Lawton said during the company's first quarter earnings call Thursday after egg prices more than doubled this year. Yeah, absolutely. Take back control of your food. To the best of your ability, have a garden, have small animals that you can raise. Learn about how you can raise the rabbits, the chickens, the turkeys, the geese, the ducks, the pheasants, the guinea fowl. Learn about how you can raise cooney pigs, the sheep, the goat. All right. If you can, cattle. The more you can be taken off of government dependence, off of the logistical dependence that one day won't be there, the better off you are. And now you already have bargaining rights with your neighbors. You already have something you can be starting your own commerce with. You can't eat the bullets, my friends, or the gold. All right, here's an interesting one. Syrian leader who is a member of ISIS and was on the FBI terrorism watch list as like the number two guy is now open to normalizing ties with Israel under the Abraham Accords. Here's one to watch. Syria's leader Ahmed al Shara has reportedly expressed openness to normalizing relations with Israel under certain circumstances, ending decades of acrimony between the two neighboring states. Shara reportedly discussed the matter with Representative Corey Mills, a Republican from Florida, during his visit to Syria. The exact terms to offer weren't made public, though Representative Mills says that Shara also gave him a note to deliver to President Trump. Syria is keen to get international sanctions eased, and that is likely to be a top condition for such a move. Here's something interesting to note. Recently, Donald Trump at the Pope funeral uh, talked to Erdogan, Tayyip Erdogan, who is the head of Turkey, who is pretty much now the head owner of Syria, and said that they want to do a deal that Syria will be quiet, be peaceful, and allow our military to come back into Syria, to allow our planes to land into Syria, and to potentially use Syria as a launching off platform to attack Iran. Now, Iran and Turkey are in deep cahoots. Iran and ISIS and the Taliban and Al Qaeda are all the same thing. Hamas, same thing. Hezbollah, same thing. The Houthi rebels, same thing. And now possibly Saudi Arabia wants to get in the mix with that. Eventually, as the Bible states, no one will come to defend Israel, which is why I think one day we will be taken off the playing board. I don't think there's a country out there that can destroy us. I don't think we're going to get hit by 1,000 nukes and then that's it. And I've said this ad nauseum, but I'll keep saying it because it was considered while I was still in the agency as one of the number one threats to America's safety is the grid. You have this day X, you have this black awakening, you take down the grid, you let all these terror attacks happen across the country. Goodbye, our efforts of supporting Europe, Australia, New Zealand, Israel. Uh, there were multiple judges that were recently arrested by the FBI for harboring Trinidad gang member terrorists, and then also trying to stop immigration officials from carrying out their duties. They have been arrested. That is a big shot across the bow for things that are happening. I'm watching it. I'm not cheering it on. I'm just remaining quiet and watching what's happening. Me personally in my flesh, do I like to see it happen? Yes, but I'm also looking at this with spiritual eyes and ears, saying, what is the next move, counter move that's happening? To me personally, I think all this is just adding for a buildup for a potential civil strife, civil conflict, civil war here in America. You have many members of the Pentagon who are now being investigated. They're being fired. They're being removed from their positions because they're not loyal to Trump. You're having base commanders who are being removed from their positions and being fired because they're not loyal to Trump. One recently was a base commander who, upon I don't know who came and visited, but the picture for Trump and for JD Vance were faced against the wall. That led to their removal. You got to think about this. If you're not loyal to Trump, you go. Well, if you're a Christian and you're not loyal to Trump, do you still go? When does it stop? That's what I want to know. When does a president become an authoritarian figure, become a dictator? How close are we to that? I'm not saying he's an authoritarian. I'm not saying he's a dictator. I'm saying that there is evidence that points to other things that have happened in the past that make me nervous, that make me think we're going in the wrong direction. This make America a Christian nationalist country is going in the wrong direction. Pretty much making everybody in the world mad at us. It's going in the wrong direction. The rhetoric that's being fired back and forth from both the Trump administration and the Democrats, it's not looking good for us. And by us, I always refer back to we, the people. While all these people are juxtaposing, while they're positioning and maneuvering, while the infighting is happening, while people are getting fired and hired, and elites are getting moved in different positions, the technocrats are gaining even more um, power than what they had or should have. We, the people, are going to face the brunt of it all. It's just like every Ukrainian that has nothing to do with that war in Ukraine. The civilians are in the middle of the fighting. Eventually, we, the people, will be the civilians in the middle of that fighting. Thank you to everyone who's still watching and with us. I think there's 154 or so that are watching. I know it's late. I'm going to read real quick from Preaching in Hitler's Shadow. Um, this book is eye opening for a lot of reasons. I've read it multiple different times, and strangely enough, there are many things in this book that is said by Nazis, that is said by the SS, Himmler, that's said by Hitler, that we've heard from the MAGA party. Some people are going to say I'm crazy. I get that. But when you see Hitler saying we're going to make Germany America, or we're going to make Germany great again, we're going to make Germany a Christian nation again. Adolf Hitler, for the first 8 weeks, went around parading that he was a Christian, devout Christian, Jesus Christ is Lord, and we're going to make us rich again. We're going to make us wealthy again. We're going to be a superpower again. It all echoes the same type of ideology and egoism that's going on in this nation currently. The problem is there's a lot more people that are sold out to that in America than there are in Germany during this time. We haven't gone violent yet, but the potential is there. And if we are so hubristic in our way of thinking that we would never appear to look like the gulags or the death camps, that we would never have our own Hitler Youth, we would never have our own brown shirts or the Schutzstaffel. The beginnings are there. There is a complete occult practice that's happening within the MAGA movement that's been corrupted by the New Apostolic Reformation preachers, the Dominionists. They're all colliding into one thing. And Trump right now is the head of all of that. Hate me or not, that's just the way I see it. All right. Starting at page 43, the Nazi speech. As indicated above in discussing Nazi faith and the mandatory conformity to the new way of life in Germany, the Nazis developed a vocabulary through which they presented their constant propaganda. Now, one of these points that Hitler made, that the Nazis made, was, I think it's point 24, and it is positive Christianity, negative Christianity. Positive Christianity is when you say anything good about the Fuhrer, about the Reich, about the operations that they're in, and you use a biblical reference to support it, you're in good graces. You're exactly where we want you to be. If you use the Bible negatively for rebuking, for combating, for saying, hey, this is not the tenets of Christ. This is not Christianity. This is false representation of Christianity. This is dangerous. Then you were targeted. Churches were burned. Priests, ministers, reverends, pastors were silenced. They were kidnapped, missing. They were murdered. Some were outright hanged in the public view, along with their parishioners. So, as indicated above in discussing Nazi faith and the mandatory conformity to the new way of life in Germany, the Nazis developed a unique vocabulary through which they presented their constant propaganda. Again, Victor Klemperer's book on Nazi language is worth reading for its detailed look at certain words and expressions as experienced firsthand by a Jew living in the midst of Nazis. And as a professor of languages, his insight is particularly valuable. To mention one example, as we read the sermons, it is helpful to recall Klemperer's insight that Nazi speech dealt in superlatives. Hence, Hitler was the smartest leader of the bravest people, of the purest blood, and Germany was the greatest country and most glorious of nations, and the most heroic of wars and struggles against the worst of enemies in the most dangerous of times. Does any of that sound familiar to anything you've heard within the last couple years, months? As Klemperer often does, he combines linguistic insight with personal experience in discussing, quote, a well stocked subgroup of the general use of superlative. Kempler writes, this, the superlative, could be referred to as the most prevalent and linguistic form of the language of the Third Reich, which is not surprising given that the superlative is the most obvious means by which a speaker or agitator can achieve a desired effect. It is the quintessential advertising mode. That is why the NSDAP, the Nazi Party, reserved it for its own special use by eliminating all competition and maintaining sole right of disposal. In October 1942, Edgar, our neighbor in the next room, the former owner of one of the most respected clothes shops in Dresden, at the time a factory worker and soon to be shot attempting to escape, told me that a circular had been forbidden him from using superlatives when advertising his business. Another invaluable resource for studying Nazi speech and the vocabulary of National Socialism, which to date is available only in Germany. This study of Nazi words, expressions, and concepts underscores what Kempler points out in his study of Nazi language and his lengthy diary. I believe we have those. The Nazis took language seriously and sought to refine its use for political ends. As is well known, Goebbels, as head of the Nazi propaganda, worked tirelessly at getting the words right to convey the ideas of Nazism, as well to cover up its crimes with euphemisms. While there is not space here to discuss the many examples and essays on Nazi language in either Klemperer or the vocabulary of National Socialism, A few examples might serve to illustrate the persuasive or pervasive tone of Nazi language. Christians hearing the term, quote, original sin, think naturally of Genesis' story of the fall. Nazis hearing the same reference might well think of Hitler's definition of the term Mein Kampf, where it begins the, quote, sin against blood and race. Goring justified the Nuremberg race laws by referring to original sin as, quote, disgracing one's blood, and by acknowledging, quote, we Germans have been forced to suffer terribly from this original sin. Preachers who took their text from Genesis and not Mein Kampf would automatically challenge a basic Nazi concept just by reading the Genesis story and allowing the inspired Hebrew author to remind congregations that original sin had to do with hubris and disobedience rather than with blood and racial purity. This same type of rhetoric is used in the New Apostolic Reformation leaders and how they talk about the true manifest sons of God, the real Christians versus the fake Christians. One video that I was watching from Magical Mystery Church had one of their representatives, a prophet, one of the most well-known false prophets, who said he was given a dream that Satan gave birth to two demons. Um, More or less, the names of these two demons was um, challenging and undermining, more or less. It was two different names than that, but that was the reasoning for it. In their maddening reason, you cannot challenge the new church that's coming in their intent. Just as many people cannot challenge Donald Trump in what he's trying to do. Now, I'm not trying to paint Donald Trump as a Nazi, not at all. What I'm trying to tell you is that this language is occult based, it has occult ties, it has demonic powers that are infused into it. You have people that are from all different walks of life practicing witchcraft from all different kinds of witchcraft that are involving themselves in political plays. That was happening in Germany. That's been happening here in America, both the Democrat and the Republican. Regardless of how it is that you view it, it's been happening. It's in the churches, okay? Depending on which church you go to, you absolutely know what I'm talking about. As noted by Klemperer, Germans, quote, believed in Hitler much as Christians and Jews believe in God. It does not surprise us, therefore, to note that the noun, quote, faith became a central idea in Nazi vocabulary. In general, Nazi faith was the new political faith of unquestioned devotional trust in all matters pertaining to National Socialism and the abilities of the Fuhrer always to do what is right. As Hitler noted in a speech on April 4th, 1922, quote, the most powerful thing that our movement ought to create is a new faith for these diversified, searching, and erring masses. Nazi leaders were not alone in confessing faith in Adolf Hitler. The German Christian bishop Mueller went so far as to declare faith in Hitler's policy to be Christian, to be like Christian faith in Jesus' Sermon on the Mount. In an article entitled, quote, The Faith Among Stormtroopers, the author mixes religious faith and Nazi faith into one cup when he declares that faith in the SA, that was the brown shirts, the stormtroopers, is, quote, faith in the Fuhrer sent to us by God's will. Certainly, every recitation of the Apostles' Creed and every mention of faith in God, in Christ, or in the power of prayer in a sermon in the Third Reich would challenge the Nazi understanding of the central Christian virtue. The word brutal appears to have been a favorite adjective. We tend to see brutality as a negative idea, and when used against the enemies of Nazism, the Nazis were ready to allow it in this connotation But when applied to the Nazis' trait of being unwilling to compromise or to accept anything short of victory, brutality was then considered to be a positive virtue. As is well known, the swastika was the symbol of Nazism. Yet, in my opinion, part of the reason this symbol was omnipresent in the Third Reich is that its literal meaning in German is hook cross. Nazis twisted and distorted the cross into a pagan symbol to challenge and replace the Christian cross. As suggested in the vocabulary of the National Socialism, the swastika was in direct competition with the Christian cross. I am persuaded that the mention of the cross of Christ in sermons of opposition often had this competing cross of the Nazis in mind. Quote, hard and hardness were great virtues in Nazism. Softness and weakness were for the inferior races. Noting that the word in German had long had a negative connotation, as in Luther's translation of Luke 19:21, where the servant fears his master because he knows him to be a hard man, Hitler saw it as one of the most desired qualities in German youth. Himmler, speaking in 1943 to a group of SS leaders in Posen, told them that writing the world of Jews, these men would know what it was like to walk all over the corpses of 100 or 500 or 1,000, and this would make them hard. As with so many words and ideas, the Nazis turned human values upside down and ridiculed Christian virtues and commandments. So when a sermon lauded a Christian trait, background noise was blaring the accepted perversion of words, meanings, and attitudes. Love, forgiveness, sin, redemption, salvation, prayer, humility, and weakness all have their place in Christian vocabulary. But in Nazi speech, these are replaced by hatred, rejection, brutality, final victory, obedience in Hitler, and rejection of the weak, the ill, and the marginal. In the Third Reich, these two languages were set against each other every day. Indeed, the central question for Christians was cross or swastika. So, my issue here is that when Trump was running for president again in 2020, and for the next 4 freaking years, you had songs that came out that said Trump was the Messiah, Trump was the chosen one, Trump was the second King David, Trump was my savior. There was a sect of Jews from Israel who minted I think it's like a 30-pound silver crown and gave it to Trump and considered and called him the Prince of Peace. These types of rhetoric and adulation to Trump should be very concerning to any Christian out there. When you saw the 2024 presidential race, where you had Biden and Kamala Harris on one side and you had Trump's following on the other, and they brought politics inside the house of God. That should be a alarming wake-up call to any Christian out there. As Christians, it is it's a mute talking point that gets to points of various types of aggravation. Should we sit down and do nothing, or should we stand up and do something? Is it our Christian duty to be involved in politics and protecting our country, or is it our Christian duty to let his will be done and to pray for our leaders and to pray for our nation? That's the two camps that America is in right now. The latter side won, Trump's people won, Trump won. And so now we have this sit and wait. And we have to see what happens within the first, year of Trump's presidency, where he's going to try and get everything done before the House flips and everything flips against him. And along with that, just pay attention to what's happening. Recount the things that happened in the past. This bizarre praise of Trump. We're going to make America great again. We're going to make America wealthy again. The amount of the new apostolic reformation preachers who surrounded him. He appointed a woman who should, I mean, she's disqualified from being a preacher in the beginning, but he put her, Paula White, as the head of the faith office. All these things to me are alarm bells. We're going in the wrong direction. We're going in the right direction uh, for the collapse of America. And maybe that's going to happen anyways. But as a Christian, what should we really be keeping our eyes on? Is it politics? Is it the war? Is it the economy? Is it stressing over everything? Or should we be keeping our eyes on the cross, on redemption, on repentance, on the forgiveness of sins, acknowledging sin, going out and preaching the gospel from the highways to the byways, and waiting on our blessed hope to return? Me as a Christian, that's the camp that I fall in. I'm a patriot to my country. I've served my time. I serve my people everywhere I can. I do my best to be a shoulder to cry on, a hand on a shoulder, to listen to people, to help people. And in that way, I'm serving my brother. I'm serving my community. I'm serving the flock. I will not fall into the wars of this country again. I'll probably never get back into policing again. Though I enjoyed both things, I won't lie to you. I enjoyed being in the uniform, but I see something different coming down the pike. And I think that right now, as Christians, we need to be concerned with getting ready for what's going to happen in this country. That doesn't mean become a doomsday prepper. It doesn't mean join a freaking militia. Doesn't mean sell everything and go live in a awkward congregation in the mountains somewhere. That means use common sense. Keep close to Christ. Enjoy your family. Enjoy the time that you have on this world, as dark as it is, and be the light in the darkness. Be the salt of the earth. Help your enemies when they come to you. Learn to forgive people. Learn to apply the blood of Christ over and frustratingly over and over again. If your enemy comes to you hungry, feed them. Naked, clothe them. Thirsty, give them something to drink. By doing that for them, you did it for Christ. Right now, you hear rhetoric of violence, civil war, civil strife. Join this side or you're against us. We'll join that side or you're against us. If you join Christ's side, the whole world is against you. But fear not, he's overcome the world. Last thing to talk about. Me and a brother recently had a conversation, a lovely 3-hour conversation that ended on the mark of the beast. The first most dreadful thing about the mark of the beast is if you take it, you're damned. There's no coming back. There's no repentance. You chose that side, and it's your choice. Being a Christian, you learn more and more that God's grace and his mercies are renewed every day. That Satan wants you to condemn yourself in your sins in your past. Satan doesn't want you to acknowledge the redemption that was on that cross. Satan doesn't want you to acknowledge the victory that Christ has already obtained. He wants you to think you're still in conflict, you should still be fighting. He wants you to think that you do have stake in this world. You should be committing everything to it, to, your retirement, your friends, your family, spending your money, enjoying your life. We're not of this world. Now, it doesn't mean, become a square, sell everything, and eat saltine crackers and Vienna sausage and just wait for the day Jesus returns. You should be here enjoying your life, enjoying this beautiful world that God made for us. But you're not to be of the world. You're to come out of that way of living. And when you do that, and when you live for Christ, this world will hate you for it. As Jesus already said it, they hated me first. They're going to hate you as well. If you accept and acknowledge that to live for Christ is to understand that I eventually will also die for Christ, and that death for Christ gains me my victory to be with Christ, to walk on streets of gold, to be there to see the scars on his hands, to be able to tell Satan, you can't have me. There's nothing you can do against me. My Lord's already won. So you can do whatever you want against me. You can throw me in prison, cut my head off, continue to fight against me. When my Lord returns, it's done. Or you can choose fear. And you can see the rabbit hole that fear will lead you down. As the Bible talks about fear, it is and one of the things I learned in the military, it is the greatest undoer of all good plans. Fear will completely undo everything that you've tried. We're told so many times in the Bible, more times than anything else, do not be afraid. Do not give in to fear. Have hope. Have faith. Believe in the Lord. The other side of that seat is saying, I should be afraid and I should choose the winning side. Or to the extent that I didn't like either side, but I voted for the lesser of two evils. You will never find in the Bible, vote for the lesser of two evils. But how do you live your life? Do you live your life by the tenets of the Bible? Do you live your life by the examples that Jesus gave us? Or do you laissez faire, lukewarm yourself throughout this life in hope that before you meet the Maker, you're able to repent and be wiped clean? That's not the proper way to live, friends. The mark of the beast. The second worst part of the mark of the beast is when you see everybody who has it and the ones that are unexpectedly taking it. Your family, friends, your workout buddies, your coworkers, to have them one day knock on the door and it's either on the head or on the hand. And whichever camp you want to be in, is it a metaphorical? Is it a this? Is it a that? I take the Bible literally. The mark will be a literal mark. To see someone that you love so much, you cared for so much, to show up with that, and to know I can no longer have fellowship with you. I will never see you again. You're officially chosen your side. You're an enemy of Christ now. This goes along with the dream that I shared with a brother. That was one of the reasons for why I wrote the Wrecker Chronicles. Now, if you never listened to any of the Wrecker Chronicles, they're kind of crazy. I'm still working on the episode 2, which is tying everything together. It's taken me an extraordinary long time to write that. The death of our son Landros um, really just destroyed all way of thinking for me for the past 2 or 3 months. For anyone who was checking in on us with this, we did finally get our son's remains back. It took us over 2 months to get his remains back. And that's been very hard on me and my wife. So thank you for your prayers and for those who have been checking up on us. But in this dream that God gave me, um, it's like any other apocalypse movie. Me and a group of guys, I think it was like 12 to 15 guys, were sitting around a fire at night. Of course, we're in all of our cool tactical guy gear, guns and whatnot. And our families are out away from us. We're doing something that involves us going and getting food and water and bringing it back to them. And we're in a kind of like a midnight stop. And all of a sudden comes a man. And this man is presented to us by the perimeter security guy, finds him. He brings him to the fireside where we all look at him. Obviously, this guy's like a hedge fund manager, right? Real nice suit, just wearing gloves over his hands. And we're asking him, who are you? Where you been? Why are you here? How'd you find out about us? And so within this whole dream, um, I eventually ask him, why are you wearing gloves? Take them off. Takes off his gloves eventually, and he's got the mark on his hand. Forethought, and it's something the Lord was showing me, was that in this dream, because of the type of person that I am, um, I more or less attacked this man out of pure spite and hate for what he did. Now, let me back up and tell you what he said. What he said was the city that he came out of, they ran out of food. And after they ran out of food, they started to eat the people, and he didn't have a stomach for it anymore. And it haunted me to think about that so much that I had to write it down. And it allowed me to examine a few things. For one thing, I wasn't expecting that. Two, what I did out of the flesh was also not what God is expecting of me. Now, acknowledging the mark of the beast, the things that are going on, I'm still a Christian. I still serve my Lord no matter what. That means everything that I do reflects upon my Lord and his sacrifice for me. I acted out of turn. That was not a way of Christ. We're still to be humble and to be meek. Unless presented with harm, we're still to act as Christ did. I was shown that I was still having things to work on within my own heart. Now, talking with my wife about this when I first wanted to start the Record Chronicles, originally it wasn't supposed to be a story format. It was going to be by video. And hey, Christians, let's say you're in this scenario, like the one I'm giving you right now. You're at your fireside, in walks a guy with a mark of the beast on his hand. What are you going to do? And I've talked to a lot of people about this. A lot of people have told me, well, they'd kill him right then, right there. Um, Guy's a cannibal. He chose Satan. Get rid of him. In my flesh, I would say, yeah, I probably agree with you. But in my heart, I have to stop and think, what does Christ want of me? What does he expect me to do? Because if you're in any type of form of leadership role, whatever you do, everyone is watching you. Every good thing you do and bad thing that you do, they're watching you. In the version of this, in this training aspect, wake up the next morning, guys tied to a tree. We've got our gear, we've got our supplies, we're going back to our families. Is that what you would have done? Or would you have done something different? Is that what Christ would have wanted us to do? How is it that you view these things? In all things that you do pushing forward, let Christ always be at the foremost of your mind. No matter your background, no matter the scenario, are you willing and ready to die for Christ and to live for Christ? Are you willing and ready to forgive your enemies, to be Christ-like towards them? It's like, what did Jesus say? Leaping burning coals upon their heads. What Satan will do is he will put something in front of you to test your testimony, to test your faith, to see if you're willing to bend, if you're willing to break, if you're willing to, well, just this one time. Resist the devil and he will flee from you. As it says in the book of Ephesians, Be able to resist the wiles of the devil in all forms, no matter what it is that he throws in front of you. I mean, if the giant comes, hey guys, draw swords, time to fight. Or it's time to run if you got to be smart. But when it's something so innocent as an unarmed man who is blatantly condemned, what all do we do, fellas? What are our options? We can't let you stay, but we can't let you leave. You leave, you'll tell people where we are. You leave, you'll bring others to us, potentially to our families. My choice, tie 'em to a tree, get to stepping. The Lord is constantly training me. I'm constantly seeking Him. What is it that I'm supposed to do? I ask about these situations and scenarios. Lord, if I'm ever put in this type of a situation, what would you want me to do? Because I know what I want to do, which is almost always not the right thing. So I want to say, Lord, help us during these times, even during the Black Awakening, during Day X. Help us to live as Christ. Help us to be clothed in Christ, in your compassion and your love. Help us to be as gentle as doves, but as wise as serpents. And at all cost, remember your testimony. Remember where Jesus took you out of the gutter and into glory. Remember that no matter what, no matter how beaten down you are, no matter how lost you think you are, Jesus said, I would go out into the storm and in the worst part of it, just to find my one lost sheep. And when I bring him back and I show the city and the elders, I found my sheep. The Bible says that the angels leap and jump for joy at that sinner now saved. So if you're in those crossroads, if you don't know where you stand with God, it's not hard, friends. Get down on your knees, humble yourself, gentlemen, cry out to Him as your children cry out to you whenever they say, Daddy, help me. You know, I know if my children cry out to me, I'm there in a moment. Whatever it is, I'm here. It's okay. God's the same way. He's just wanting you to cry out to Him. As it says in the book of Isaiah, the moment you present your sins to me, I toss them behind my back. It's done with. It's gone. I'm here now. It's over. Remember why I put you here. Remember what my son did on that cross. And remember you were bought with a price. Act like it. Guys, that's all I got. It is 11:28 p.m. Central Time. We'll see you here in a day or two. May the peace of God be with all you. Hard times are coming. Don't fret. Jesus is with us. Act accordingly. Stay frosty. We'll see you next time.